how many conventions it is making. Somewhere or the other, we ourselves want to do something better, or like to be more able to be commercially popular. We use these intellectual property and this knowledge that we use, but it is against the policies, the IPR, the laws that we have been studying. Now, I would say that the dominant model for recognizing and protecting this particular traditional knowledge and cultural expressions, must come under the intellectual property regime. It does come if we just read the law, but if we see about its implementation, I haven't seen it till now. Now, this particular regime, which is based on IPR, is mainly based on Western legal and economic parameters, as well as on Western property law. And it emphasizes exclusivity and private ownership, reducing knowledge and cultural expression to commodities that can be privately owned by any individual or a corporation. The intellectual property regime is widely recognized as a primary mechanism for determining ownership and property rights over knowledge, processes, innovations, inventions, and we can also say the naturally occurring phenomena such as plants, animal, and genetic material. Now, this form of ownership is again protected by the WTO, that is the World Trade Organization, and WIPO, that is the World Intellectual Property Organization. So this traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, traditional environmental knowledge, and local knowledge is what these regional indigenous people have been following and trying to promote. So this traditional knowledge doesn't just include the customs, the language, the art that they have. It also encompasses the wisdom, the knowledge, and teachings of these communities, that how we can move forward, we can build ourselves without exploiting our resources or the already things that have been provided to us by the nature itself. In many cases, this traditional knowledge has been orally passed for generations from person to person. Some form of traditional knowledge are expressed through stories, legends, folk fare, certain rituals. They have certain songs and certain laws even that the indigenous community used to have at earlier time and now time also. Now, other forms of traditional knowledge that can be expressed can be different means. It includes mental inventories of logical, biological resources, different type of animal breeds, the local plants, crop, and tree species. It may also include information as trees and plants that grow well together and indicator plants, such as plants that show the soil salinity or treatment and shortage are somehow or the other at the beginning of the rains, like what we can like at agricultural land, at what time, what should we like sow, what should we use? Somehow maintaining the soil credibility over also there. It also includes the practices and technologies such as seed treatment and the storage methods, the tools we should use for harvesting and planting. It also encompasses the belief systems that play a fundamental role in people's livelihood, maintaining their health and production and replenishing the environment. This knowledge is dynamic in nature. It may include experimentation and integration of new plant or tree species obtained through natural selection, budding, cross-fertilization, or different methods that these traditional healers test of new plant medicine. But the term traditional used in describing this knowledge does not imply that this knowledge is old or unethical in nature, but it is more of a traditional based to preserve our own surroundings while we move forward sort of concept it has. So this traditional knowledge is collective in nature and is often considered the property of dissemination. The entire community has its property and it doesn't belong to a particular individual, a particular male member or a female member. It belongs to each and every individual that is living in that particular community. Now it is transmitted to specific cultural and traditional information exchange mechanisms. For example, maintained and transmitted orally through old elders or specialists, certain breeders, certain healers, etc. And often to only select few people in a community. Human communities have always generated, refined, and passed on these knowledge from generation to generation. Such traditional knowledge is often an important part of their cultural identities. This traditional knowledge has also played and is still playing a vital role in the daily lives of the vast majority of people worldwide. Now, we know that this traditional knowledge is very essential to the food security and health of millions of people. I would first like to give certain examples through different cases that have happened. Like if I talk about India, we have been using turmeric from an immemorial time to treat certain things, to have a good health. So there was this person who in USA tried to patent a particular recipe or medicine in which the turmeric was used. And he claimed that turmeric cannot be then used by any other company apart from that particular person's company. So the court came to a conclusion that this particular thing is traditional knowledge to a particular sect of people. They have been using it for a very immemorial time. So the turmeric cannot be patented by any person, definitely. But that was something us as human, one of our human only tried to like take one of the traditional knowledge and use it for her, his or her own economic gain actually. Next, we can talk about neem. Neem that we use, it is used in a lot of medicines. We use it daily in our homes also. There was this company which used certain skincare products. In this skincare products, they use this specifically one neem product. So when this neem leaves were used and the neem plant was used, he again, what he actually named that particular medicine was indigenous. He gave that particular whole skin treating mechanisms, whatever different things that that particular person had came up to. It included this neem, it included aloe vera, it included turmeric, included basin that we use regularly in our homes. So he named those particular whole series as the indigens. So again, a question came to arise that how a particular species of humans can be named of a particular regime they are trying to set up. Now, if I talk about what is the issue, like definitely the patent was not granted and somehow or the other we were able to like hold on to our traditional knowledge as Indians, like the Indian government had to fight for it. But what I feel, and I would like to say that no matter what declarations have come and what have come, our country ourselves is not recognizing what indigenous people in our country itself is. Like the 2007, the UNDRIP, that the United Nations Declaration on Right of Indigenous People, it explicitly said that it's Article 11, 12, and 31, which states that indigenous people have a right to maintain, control, protect, and develop their cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional cultural expressions, as well as the manifestations of their sciences, technologies, and cultures, including human and genetic resources, seeds, medicines, knowledge of the properties of fauna and flora, oral traditions, literatures, designs, different sports, traditional games, and visual and performing arts. Articles 12 also said that indigenous people have the right to manifest, practice, develop, and teach their spiritual and religious traditions, customs, and ceremony. So there are so many provisions we have, there are so many conventions that we have. But one thing I always feel that our India might be lacking in, our own country might be lacking through this IPR regime is that we have considered that each and every individual who is living in the country, who is an Indian citizen, is an indigenous people, is what our country has claimed in the UN. So technically, this principle is applicable to all of us. But if we just think back to when we were younger, we used to hear certain stories from our grandmothers, the paternal grandmothers, or the maternal grandmothers. All of them, somewhere or the other, had some moral values through which we learned something. And earlier also, when we were younger, we used to use these products like neem, turmeric, everything in a quite regular basis. But nowadays, we have moved towards the branded things. Now, from where did the branded things came is from the traditional knowledge that was already existing. And somewhere or the other, we as, I'll say that I'm not an indigenous people. I don't think I'm indigenous. My family is not indigenous, but the particular tribes that have been living here since time immemorial, they might be considered as indigenous. So the scheduled tribes of India should be indigenous. Lastly, coming at the end of it, I would say that there are many NGOs and academies that have strongly advocated a specific regime to like protect this traditional knowledge. That is the sui generis regime. It means of its own kind. Sui generis means of its own kind, which is specifically adapted to nature and characteristics of traditional knowledge. A model of sui generis national legislation that would give communities property-like rights over the collective knowledge was developed by the Third World Network, that is the Community of Intellectual Rights Act, which was in 1944. So I think this new concept of sui generis may also has both the factors. It might help the traditional knowledge of the indigenous people to be conserved and preserved and used for good purposes, or it can be, it can have a very complex conceptual and practical issues. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, am I audible, ma'am? Hello, Renu, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm done.
Okay. Have you done, ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm done.
Okay, ma'am. So now I want to call our respected dean sir to give a thankful note to you. And thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful session and informative one also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dean sir. Dean sir. Hello, Dean sir. Renu, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I was inviting for the thankful note to ma'am.
Hello.
Hello, sir. I'm inviting Dean sir for a thankful note to the ma'am.
You are inviting Dean, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. For a vote of thanks.
Sir, for a thankful note at the end of the session.
You are inviting Dean, sir, or me?
Sir, Dean sir.
Okay.
अगर वो आपके आसपास है तो प्लीज बुला दीजिए.
अच्छा. एक मिनट में बात करो. होल्ड करो एक मिनट.
जी.
सर वो थैंकफुल वोट के लिए बोल रहे ज्योति आपको. क्या थैंकफुल वोट के लिए बोल रहे ज्योति आपको.
कॉफी पियोगे?
Okay, Gargi, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Bus, I was busy some meeting.
It's
So,
okay.
so somebody has told me that in the degree of 101, even you are sharing your thoughts about the IPR. I'm very thankful to you that you spare your time for this. Number one. And number two, that whatever the information you have spread it to among all the teachers and the students, positively they will get benefit from your words. Number third, I know that Gargi is very hard working girl. She is known for her dedication and devotion, and I pray my God to make her more devoted, dedicated for her work, for her profile, and similarly pray God to make her a legend and eminent professor in future.
Thank you so much, sir.
So nice of you.
Definitely. Thank you.
If every question they will ask you. If anybody have any question, they can ask with this brilliant mind of Gargi Singh. And if anybody have any query, so she is always welcome, even after, during or after the session.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
So Gargi, thank you very much again. So nice of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now everyone can leave.